The radiant hall floated in the purple clouds of the Andros Nebula like a crystal palace made of light and metal. Every 1,000 cycles, warriors from 20 different species gathered here to settle disputes the old way. Not with words or votes, but with blades and strength. The rules were simple and ancient. Fight with honor. Use only melee weapons. No projectiles allowed. The law was older than most civilizations in the galaxy, written 47 million years ago in the Compact of Edges. Liam Durant checked his equipment one more time in the small preparation room. The wooden crossbow lay across his knees, wrapped in oiled cloth. He was 43 years old, a historian from Earth who specialized in medieval weapons. His hands were steady as he unwrapped the weapon and checked the string tension. The wood was dark with age, carved from yew that grew in England back when humans still thought the world was flat. Dr. Portman paced behind him, her shoes clicking on the metal floor. She was nervous. She had every right to be. Humanity was new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 7 years ago. Now they were sending a representative to the most important combat tournament in known space. The stakes were high. Winners earned trade routes, mining rights, and respect. Losers went home with nothing but shame. "They're going to laugh at us," Portman said. She stopped pacing and looked at the crossbow. Every other species brought plasma weapons, molecular cutters, things that can slice through steel. You brought a stick with string on it. Liam ran his thumb along the stock of the crossbow. The wood was smooth from centuries of use. This particular weapon had been made in the year 1523 by a craftsman whose name was lost to history. It had survived wars, famines, and the rise and fall of empires. Now it was about to fight aliens in a space arena. "It's not about the weapon," Liam said quietly. "It's about understanding the rules." High Arbiter Selene entered the room without knocking. She was 12 feet tall, made entirely of crystal that shifted colors when she moved. Her species had been part of the galactic community for 8 million years. She looked down at Liam with what might have been curiosity or contempt. It was hard to tell with a face made of geometric patterns. "The human champion," Selene said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "You may enter the arena for inspection. All weapons must be approved before the first match." Liam stood and picked up the crossbow. He followed Selene through corridors that gleamed with technologies humanity had not yet invented. The arena was massive, a circular space 200 meters across with seating for 10,000 spectators. Most of the seats were already filled. Beings with scales, fur, feathers, and stranger things watched as Liam walked to the center of the arena. 20 other champions stood in a circle, each representing their species. Liam saw warriors wielding graviton hammers that bent space itself. He saw blades made of contained plasma that hummed with deadly energy. One champion carried a whip that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Another had claws that could phase through solid matter. Then they saw what Liam was carrying. The reaction was immediate. Several champions made sounds that Liam's translator interpreted as laughter. One warrior, a massive creature with 4 arms and scales like armor, stepped forward. His name was Wraith. He had held the championship title for 200 cycles. "The human brings a toy," Wraith said. His voice was deep enough to rattle Liam's chest. Is this meant as a joke or an insult? 3 other council members joined Selene to examine the crossbow. They turned it over in their hands, careful not to damage it. One of them pulled back the string experimentally. Another ran sensors over the wood and metal components. "It appears to be a percussion device," one council member said, "designed to strike opponents with the wooden frame. Primitive, but within regulations." "It's acceptable," Selene announced. "The human may compete," Liam said nothing. He took the crossbow back and returned to his position in the circle. Dr. Portman watched from the spectator section, her face pale. She knew what was about to happen. The council didn't. They had made a critical mistake in their examination. They had never asked Liam to demonstrate how the weapon actually worked. The tournament master, a floating sphere of energy, projected the match schedule into the air. Holographic names appeared and rearranged themselves into brackets. Liam's first opponent would be Gren of the Hive Worlds, a warrior who had won 63 consecutive matches, a fighter whose acid claws could melt through titanium. The crowd settled into their seats. Betting networks lit up across the galaxy as odds were calculated. Humanity was given a survival chance of less than 3%. Most analysts predicted Liam would be dead within 30 seconds of the first match. One commentator called it the shortest championship appearance in tournament history. Liam loaded a bolt into the crossbow. He did it slowly, making sure everyone could see. The bolt was steel-tipped, fletched with real feathers, and weighted for accuracy at 40 meters. He had made it himself in his workshop back on Earth. He had made 200 more just like it. The tournament would begin in 1 hour. Liam sat down to wait, his crossbow across his lap. He thought about all the warriors throughout human history who had carried similar weapons into battle. Archers at Agincourt, crossbowmen at Cressy. Soldiers who understood that the oldest tools were often the most reliable. He was about to teach the galaxy a lesson that humanity had learned thousands of years ago. Sometimes the best weapon is the one nobody expects. Gren moved like liquid violence across the arena floor. His 6 legs carried him forward in a blur of motion that left scorch marks on the metal ground. His species had evolved on a world where everything was either predator or prey, and Gren had never been prey. Acid dripped from his claws, hissing when it hit the floor. His compound eyes tracked Liam from 40 different angles at once. Liam stood perfectly still. He had already calculated the distance, the wind patterns in the arena, and the angle he would need. The crossbow was loaded. His finger rested lightly on the trigger. He had done this motion 10,000 times in practice. Now it was time to do it for real. The crowd expected Liam to charge forward. They expected him to use the crossbow as a club, swinging it desperately while Gren tore him apart. That was how melee weapons worked. You closed the distance. You made contact. You fought until someone couldn't fight anymore. Liam raised the crossbow to his shoulder and aimed. Gren was 30 meters away and closing fast. 25 meters. 20 meters. The alien warrior's mandibles clicked together in what might have been laughter. Liam exhaled slowly, released half a breath, and squeezed the trigger. The string snapped forward with a sound like breaking wood. The bolt flew faster than most eyes could follow. It crossed the distance in less than a second and punched through Gren's chest armor with a wet crunch. The alien warrior stumbled, looked down at the metal shaft protruding from his thorax, and collapsed. Green blood pooled around his body. Silence fell over the arena like a physical weight. 10,000 spectators said nothing. The other champions stared. Even Wraith, who had seen every kind of combat technique in 2 centuries of fighting, looked confused. Liam lowered the crossbow. He didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. He simply walked back to his starting position and waited for the medical team to carry Gren away. The wound wasn't fatal. The bolt had missed all vital organs. Gren would recover in a few days. But he had lost. The match was over. High Arbiter Selene materialized in the center of the arena. Her crystal body flickered through colors so fast it looked like she was glitching. 3 other council members appeared beside her. They surrounded Liam in a semicircle, their expressions unreadable. "Explain," Selene demanded. "Explain what you just did." Liam held up the crossbow. "I used my weapon according to the rules. No projectile weapons allowed. This is not a projectile weapon. This is a mechanical tension device made of wood and string. The bolt is the projectile. The crossbow merely launches it." One council member, a being made of shifting geometric patterns, spoke up. "The spirit of the law is clear. No ranged attacks. Combat must be conducted at close quarters." "The letter of the law says no projectile weapons," Liam replied. His voice was calm, almost bored. "Your exact words in the Compact of Edges, translated into human language, are: no weapon that propels matter through chemical combustion, energy discharge, or electromagnetic acceleration. My crossbow uses none of those methods. It uses mechanical tension stored in bent limbs and released through a string. That's physics, not chemistry or energy." Dr. Portman pushed through the crowd to reach the arena floor. She carried a data tablet loaded with research. "I have the original text right here. The law was written to prevent plasma rifles, railguns, and explosive devices. Weapons that didn't exist yet when the law was written aren't covered by the ban. A crossbow is older than your civilization. It predates the Compact by millions of years." The council members huddled together, speaking in frequencies humans couldn't hear. The crowd began to murmur. Betting networks were going insane trying to recalculate odds. Humanity had gone from 3% survival to an unknown variable. Unknown variables made bookies nervous. Selene separated from the group. "We will review the ancient texts. The match result stands for now. You advance to the next round." "When was the Compact written?" Liam asked. He already knew the answer, but he wanted everyone to hear it. 47 million years ago, Selene said. This crossbow design is 7,000 years old, Liam said. On the galactic timescale, that's nothing. But on Earth, 7,000 years means this technology has been tested in actual warfare against actual enemies who wanted to kill the users. It has been refined through generations of craftsmen who dedicated their lives to making it better. You can call it primitive if you want. Humans call it proven. Wraith stepped forward. He was the only champion who didn't look angry or confused. He looked interested. Your species has used these weapons in war? For thousands of years, Liam said. We used bows and crossbows to hunt food, defend our homes, and conquer our enemies. We used them in wars that killed millions. We used them until we invented something better, but we never forgot how to make them or use them. And you brought this weapon here knowing it would cause controversy? Wraith asked. I brought this weapon here knowing it would work, Liam corrected. Controversy is just a side effect. The council members dispersed to conduct their review. The next match was delayed while scholars dug through archives, pulling up the original compact text in languages that hadn't been spoken in epochs. Legal experts from a dozen species argued through translation software about definitions and intent. The whole galactic community tuned in to watch. 3 hours later, Selene returned with the verdict. The crossbow is legal. The Compact of Edges specifically bans weapons that use chemical propellants, directed energy, or electromagnetic forces. Mechanical tension devices are not mentioned. The human may continue to compete. One champion, a warrior covered in blue scales, shouted a protest. This is cheating. He's exploiting a loophole. Liam turned to face the blue warrior. My entire species has built its civilization on exploiting loopholes. We've spent 10,000 years writing laws and finding ways around them. We've created legal systems so complex that we need specialists just to interpret them. We've argued about the difference between the spirit and the letter of laws since we first learned to write. You want to ban my weapon because it doesn't fit your expectations. That's not my problem. That's yours. Dr. Portman pulled Liam aside as the arena cleared for the next scheduled match. You're making us look like rules lawyers and troublemakers. We are rules lawyers and troublemakers, Liam said. But we're also survivors. That's why Earth sent me instead of a soldier. A soldier would try to win through strength. I'm winning through preparation and understanding the system better than the people who made it. The tournament continued. Liam's second match was scheduled for the next day. This time, 3 champions demanded to face him simultaneously. The council approved the request. If the human wanted to exploit loopholes, he would face opponents who understood what his weapon could do. Liam spent the evening in his quarters, crafting new bolts. He had brought enough materials to make 500 shots. Each bolt was slightly different. Some had broader heads for maximum damage. Some had armor-piercing tips made from tungsten. Some had small explosive charges attached, filled with black powder that was chemical but not a propellant. The definitions mattered. His communicator buzzed with messages from Earth. Military historians were having debates about which historical crossbow design was most effective. Engineers were calculating the mathematical advantages of mechanical tension over energy weapons in specific scenarios. Diplomats were panicking about humanity's reputation. Liam ignored them all. He focused on his work, shaping wood and metal into tools of survival. Tomorrow he would face 3 warriors at once. The odds weren't in his favor. But then again, they never had been. 3 warriors entered the arena from different directions. They had spent all night planning how to defeat the human with the impossible weapon. Their strategy was simple. Move fast, close the distance, attack from multiple angles. A crossbow could only shoot 1 target at a time. 3 opponents meant 2 would always be safe. The first warrior was named Trell. She moved like smoke, her body partially phased out of normal reality. Her claws could reach through solid matter to tear at organs and bones. The second was Hovan, a gravity manipulator who could make himself heavy as a mountain or light as air. His weapon was a hammer that weighed nothing until it struck, then it hit with the force of a collapsing star. The third was Sindri, the fastest blade fighter in the tournament. His plasma knife could cut through anything, and he moved at speeds that left afterimages. Liam stood in the center of the arena. He had 3 crossbows laid out in front of him, each one loaded and ready. He had spent 2 hours that morning setting up his position. He knew exactly where each opponent would try to approach from. He had calculated angles and timing. Now he just had to execute. The signal blared. All 3 warriors charged. Sindri came from the left, moving so fast his feet barely touched the ground. Hovan flew in from above. using his gravity powers to leap 30 meters in a single bound. Trell phased through the arena floor and emerged 20 meters behind Liam, trying to attack from his blind spot. Liam picked up the first crossbow and fired at Sindri without seeming to aim. The bolt had a broad head designed for maximum surface impact. It caught Sindri in the shoulder and spun him sideways. The alien warrior rolled with the impact and kept coming, but now he was off balance and his charge was broken. Liam dropped the first crossbow and grabbed the second. He spun and fired at Trell, who was emerging from the floor like a ghost. This bolt had a tungsten tip designed to pierce energy shields and exotic matter. Trell tried to phase through it, but the bolt existed in too many quantum states at once. It caught her in the chest and knocked her back into the floor with a crackling sound. Hovan landed like a meteor, his hammer already swinging. Liam dove to the side, rolled, and came up with the third crossbow. But Hovan was too close now. The hammer arced down. Liam blocked it with the crossbow stock. The wood shattered into splinters. The force of the impact sent Liam tumbling backward. Sindri recovered and charged again, his plasma knife leaving glowing trails in the air. Liam scrambled backward, grabbing a bolt from his supply pouch. He held it like a knife and parried Sindri's first strike. The plasma blade cut the bolt in half. Liam kept moving, creating distance, buying time. Trell phased up through the floor again, this time more cautious. Hovan advanced with his hammer held high. Sindri circled to cut off Liam's retreat. They had him surrounded with no weapon and nowhere to run. Liam pulled something from his belt. It looked like a simple stick. He pressed a button and it unfolded into a small crossbow no bigger than a pistol. Humans called it a hand crossbow. It was weak compared to the full-sized weapons, barely powerful enough to pierce light armor, but at close range against unprotected areas it was deadly enough. He fired at Hovan's knee. The small bolt punched through the joint with a wet snap. Hovan screamed and fell, his gravity powers flickering as pain broke his concentration. His hammer fell from his hands and made a crater in the arena floor. Sindri lunged. Liam dropped the hand crossbow and caught the alien's wrist, redirecting the plasma knife past his face. He could feel the heat of the blade burning his skin. They grappled for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Then Liam did something that confused everyone watching. He smiled. A bolt fell from the ceiling and buried itself in Sindri's back. The alien warrior looked up in confusion, then collapsed. During the fight with Gren yesterday, Liam had fired one extra bolt straight up with enough force to lodge it in the arena's upper structure. He had calculated when it would work free and fall back down. He had positioned the fight to be under that exact spot at that exact moment. Trell phased through the floor one last time, desperate to land at least one strike. But Liam had been counting her phase cycles. He knew she could only remain intangible for 7 seconds, before needing to solidify for 3. He waited. When she materialized, he was holding a bolt in each hand like daggers. He drove them both into her shoulders and she went down hard. The match was over. 3 of the tournament's best warriors lay defeated. Liam stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard, bleeding from a dozen small cuts. His crossbows were broken or empty, but he was standing. The crowd made sounds and frequencies that ranged from shock to awe to rage. The human had won again, not through superior strength or speed or powers, but through planning and adaptation. He had turned weapons into tools and tools into traps. He had used the arena itself as part of his strategy. Wraith was the first to enter the arena after the medics cleared the defeated warriors. He looked at the broken crossbow, the scattered bolts, and the way Liam had positioned everything. "You planned all of this before the match started." "I planned for 5 different scenarios," Liam said. "This was scenario 3. The other 4 would have worked too. Your species thinks like this naturally." "My species survives like this naturally," Liam corrected. "We're not the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced, but we're very good at using what we have better than anyone expects us to." That evening, panic spread through the galactic community. Military analysts reviewed human history files and discovered weapons the Compact had never considered. Bows that could fire arrows through steel plate, slings that could crack skulls at 100 meters, atlatls that extended human throwing range by ridiculous amounts, ballistas that could destroy fortifications, trebuchets that could throw rocks over city walls. All of them used mechanical tension or simple physics. None of them violated the Compact's exact wording. All of them were older than most spacefaring civilizations. All of them were legal to use in the tournament. Emergency council sessions were called. Should the rules be changed? Could they be changed mid-tournament? The ancient laws said no. Rules established at the start of competition could not be altered until the tournament ended. Otherwise, every species would change laws whenever they started losing. Liam advanced to the semi-finals. His next opponent would be Wraith himself, the four-armed champion who had held the title for 200 cycles. The warrior who had never lost a match in his entire career. The fighter who respected Liam but would show absolutely no mercy. Dr. Portman found Liam in his quarters, repairing his crossbows with spare parts he had packed. The whole galaxy is watching now. Humanity's reputation is riding on this tournament. No pressure then, Liam said. He was reshaping a broken limb using a small knife and years of woodworking practice. They're calling us loophole exploiters, rules lawyers. Dangerous because we question everything. We are all of those things, Liam said. But we're also builders and artists and scientists. One tournament won't define us. It'll just show the galaxy one aspect of humanity, the aspect that survives when the odds are against us. Can you beat Wraith? Liam tested the repaired crossbow string. It held. He's stronger, faster, and more experienced. He has weapons that can bend gravity and four arms to attack from angles I can't easily defend. He's fought for 2 centuries and learned from every opponent. That's not answering my question. I don't know if I can beat him, Liam admitted, but I know I can make him work for the victory. And that's enough. The semi-final match was scheduled for dawn. Liam spent the night preparing. He made new bolts, each one crafted for specific scenarios. He practiced his movements until they were automatic. He reviewed everything he knew about Wraith's fighting style. Then he slept for 4 hours, dreamless and deep. When dawn came, he was ready. The arena had been transformed overnight into a replica of ancient ruins. Broken pillars provided cover. Crumbled walls created choke points. Elevation changes gave advantages to whoever held the high ground. This was not an open field where speed and power ruled. This was a tactical environment where intelligence and positioning mattered more than raw strength. Wraith entered from the eastern gate. His forearms carried his graviton hammer in the primary hands while his secondary hands remained free for grappling or blocking. His scales were deep red, almost black in the artificial lighting. He had fought in arenas like this hundreds of times. He knew how to use cover, how to control space, how to force opponents into killing grounds. Liam entered from the west. He carried 2 crossbows strapped to his back and one in his hands. He had 50 bolts in various pouches and bags. He wore light armor made from materials that wouldn't slow him down. He looked small compared to Wraith, fragile, human. The signal sounded. Neither warrior charged. They both understood this would not be a quick fight. Wraith moved to the left, using a broken pillar for cover while he studied Liam's positioning. Liam moved right, climbing up a collapsed wall to gain elevation. They circled each other like predators, each looking for the first opening. Liam fired the first shot from 40 meters away. The bolt sailed through the air and struck the pillar Wraith was hiding behind. Stone exploded into fragments. Wraith rolled away, using his gravity powers to accelerate his movement. He came up behind a different wall and threw a chunk of rubble. The rock flew at Liam with enough force to shatter bones. Liam dropped flat on the wall. The rock passed overhead and demolished the structure behind him. He rolled off the wall and landed in a crouch, already loading another bolt. Wraith was moving again, never staying in one place long enough to be an easy target. For 10 minutes they fought this way. Liam firing from range, trying to control the space. Wraith advancing and retreating, using the terrain to break line of sight. The crowd watched in near silence. This was not the brutal close combat they expected. This was chess played with deadly pieces. Wraith made his first serious push. He charged from behind a wall, closing 30 meters in seconds. His hammer swung in an arc that would crush Liam's skull. Liam fired a bolt that caught Wraith in the shoulder. The alien warrior grunted but didn't stop. His scales absorbed most of the impact. He kept coming. Liam abandoned his position and ran deeper into the ruins. Wraith followed. The chase lasted 5 minutes. Liam fired 3 more bolts while running. 1 missed. 2 hit but failed to slow Wraith down significantly. The champion was adapting, learning the timing of the crossbow's reload cycle, predicting when Liam would be vulnerable. Liam disappeared around a corner. Wraith pursued carefully, knowing it could be a trap. He found Liam waiting behind a partially collapsed wall. The human fired. Wraith blocked with his hammer. The bolt ricocheted off the weapon's head and shattered against stone. Wraith swung. Liam ducked under the blow and fired his second crossbow from point-blank range. The bolt caught Wraith in the chest. The champion's scales cracked. Green blood welled up around the wound. But Wraith was 200 years old and had survived worse. He grabbed Liam with two of his free hands and threw the human through a wall. Liam hit the ground hard. His breath left his lungs in a painful gasp. He rolled to his feet, everything hurting, and found his crossbow string had snapped from the impact. He dropped the weapon and pulled out the third crossbow from his back. His hands were shaking now. Blood ran from a cut above his eye. Wraith stepped through the hole in the wall. He was bleeding from multiple wounds. His breathing was labored, but he was still standing, still fighting. "You're good," he said. "Better than I expected. But you're still just human." "Just human is enough," Liam said. He fired. Wraith deflected with his hammer. Liam fired again. Wraith dodged. They exchanged attacks for another 5 minutes, both warriors reaching their limits. Then Liam did something unexpected. He threw his crossbow straight up into the air and charged at Wraith with nothing but his hands. The crowd gasped. Had the human lost his mind? Was he surrendering? Wraith swung his hammer in a devastating arc. Liam slid under it, his momentum carrying him between Wraith's legs. He came up behind the champion and grabbed one of Wraith's secondary arms. He twisted hard. Bones creaked but didn't break. Wraith spun, trying to dislodge him. Liam held on. The crossbow Liam had thrown into the air came back down. It landed in Liam's free hand. He had calculated the arc perfectly. He pressed the crossbow against Wraith's back, right between his shoulder blades where the scales were thinnest, and pulled the trigger. The bolt went through. Wraith's eyes went wide. His hammer fell from his hands. He sank to his knees. The fight was over. Medics rushed in immediately. The bolt had missed Wraith's heart by centimeters. It was a clean wound that would heal completely. But it was enough for victory. Liam had won the semi-final match against the greatest champion in tournament history. Wraith looked up at Liam from his knees. Blood ran down his back, but he managed to smile. "Your weapon is older than my civilization, yet you wield it like it was made yesterday." "On my world we have a saying," Liam said. He was breathing hard, barely able to stand. "If it's not broken, don't fix it. This design has worked for 7,000 years. It'll probably work for 7,000 more. You will make a worthy champion," Wraith said, "if you survive the final match." The tournament officials announced that the final match would be held the next evening. Liam's opponent would be Kasser the Silent, a psychic warrior who had won the tournament 3 times, a fighter who could predict movements before they happened and manipulate objects with thought alone, a warrior who had never been touched in combat, not once in 15 years of competition. Liam collapsed in his quarters after the medics cleared him. Dr. Portman cleaned his wounds while he lay on a medical bed, too exhausted to protest. "You're insane," she said. "You charged a 4-armed warrior with gravity powers using your bare hands." "It worked," Liam pointed out. "It barely worked. Cassier won't make the same mistakes Wraith made. She's fought psychics, precogs, and telepaths. She knows how to deal with opponents who think strategically. Then I'll have to think differently than she expects." That night, Liam received a visitor. Cassier herself appeared at his door. She was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shift between solid and transparent. Her eyes were completely black, reflecting nothing. She moved without making sound, her feet hovering slightly above the floor. "I wanted to meet the human who has disrupted 200 years of tradition," Cassier said. Her voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. "I'm just following the rules," Liam said. "You're exploiting the rules. There's a difference. If the rules can be exploited, they're bad rules." Cassier tilted her head. "Tomorrow we fight. I will win." "It has already been decided. By who?" "By those who control the tournament. By those who write the rules you love to exploit." "But I wanted to warn you." "The tournament is not what you think it is. Winning has consequences you haven't considered. Are you trying to scare me into forfeiting?" "I'm trying to save you from making a mistake." Cassier turned to leave, then paused. The Compact of Edges was not written for honor. It was written for survival. Some rules exist for reasons that have been forgotten. When you break those rules, you may wake things that should stay sleeping. Then she was gone, vanished like she had never been there. Liam sat alone in his quarters thinking about her words. He loaded a crossbow and tested the string tension. Whatever consequences came from tomorrow's match, he would face them the only way humans knew how, with preparation, determination, and a weapon older than the stars. Cassier found Liam in the observation room before dawn. He was watching recordings of her previous fights. studying the way she moved and predicted her opponents. She appeared behind him without warning, her presence like cold water against his consciousness. "You can't learn my patterns by watching videos," she said. "I am different in every fight. I adapt to each opponent's thoughts." Liam didn't turn around. "Then why are you here?" "To offer you a choice." Cassir moved to stand beside him. The recording showed her defeating warriors twice her size without being touched even once. The tournament is not simply about combat skill. The winner gains access to the Vault of Precedents. Do you know what that is? "The archive where the original galactic laws are stored," Liam said. "Every champion gains the right to examine the texts and interpret them. The winner doesn't just examine them. The winner controls how they are interpreted. Every trade agreement, every territorial boundary, every rule that governs galactic civilization can be read differently depending on who holds access to the original texts. For 47 million years, champions have been carefully selected to maintain the existing power structure. And I'm not part of that structure." "You are chaos," Cassir said. "You represent a species that questions authority, exploits loopholes, and refuses to accept things as they are. If you win, humanity gains enormous influence over how galactic laws are read and enforced. The Council fears this. So you're here to threaten me? I'm here to offer you an alternative. Forfeit the match. In exchange, humanity receives favorable trade status, protected shipping routes, and a seat on 3 minor councils. Your species gains legitimacy without disrupting the balance." Liam finally turned to face her. "And if I refuse? Then I will defeat you in the arena. But I will do it without holding back. You will not leave that match alive. You're that confident? I have already seen every move you will make. I know where you will stand, when you will fire, how you will try to outthink me. Psychic combat is not like physical combat. You cannot surprise someone who can read your intentions before you act on them." Liam stood. "My species didn't claw its way up from caves by accepting other people's terms. We took what we needed and dealt with the consequences. I'm not forfeiting." Cassir's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her black eyes. "Then you will die for pride. Better than living on my knees." She vanished. Liam was left alone with the recordings and his thoughts. He spent the next 3 hours preparing. Not physically. He was as ready as he could be in that regard. Instead, he prepared mentally. He thought about uncertainty. He thought about chaos. He thought about the one advantage humans had always possessed against superior opponents: unpredictability. The final match drew the largest audience in tournament history. Billions of beings across the galaxy tuned in to watch. Betting networks had crashed trying to calculate odds. The human was either the greatest underdog story ever told, or the biggest fool to ever enter the arena. The arena configuration was simple: an open field with nowhere to hide and nothing to use as cover. Pure combat between 2 warriors with nothing but skill and weapons. The crowd filled every seat. Even other champions came to watch, including Wraith, who sat in the front row with bandages still wrapped around his chest. Liam entered carrying 3 crossbows and enough bolts for 100 shots. He had slept well, eaten a good meal, said goodbye to Dr. Portman in case things went badly. He felt calm. Not the calm of acceptance, but the calm of someone who had already decided to do something insane and was now committed to seeing it through. Cassir entered from the opposite side. She carried no visible weapon. She needed none. Her mind was weapon enough. She floated 6 inches off the ground, her body almost transparent in the harsh lighting, her eyes fixed on Liam with the intensity of a microscope examining a specimen. The signal blared. Liam raised his crossbow and fired. Cassir didn't move. The bolt stopped in midair 3 meters from her body, held suspended by telekinetic force. She flicked her hand and the bolt reversed direction, flying back at Liam twice as fast. He dove sideways and the bolt missed by inches. Liam fired again. 3 bolts in rapid succession from 3 different angles. Cassir stopped them all. She sent them back. Liam was already moving, rolling and dodging. 1 bolt grazed his shoulder. Pain exploded, but he kept moving. Cassir didn't pursue. She stood in the center of the arena, perfectly calm. "I told you I can see your moves before you make them. You cannot win this way." Liam loaded another bolt but didn't fire. His mind was racing. She was right. Every time he thought about shooting, she knew where and when. Every tactic he considered, she could counter before he executed it. Fighting her normally was impossible, so he stopped thinking normally. He started thinking about random things. Song lyrics from childhood, mathematical equations with no purpose, the smell of rain on Earth, memories that had nothing to do with fighting. His hands loaded the crossbow through pure muscle memory while his conscious mind focused on anything except combat. He fired. Cassir tried to stop the bolt, but her reaction was a fraction of a second too slow. The bolt grazed her arm. She looked down at the wound, surprised. Green blood welled up. It was a minor injury, but it was the first time in 15 years anyone had touched her in combat. Interesting, Cassir said. You're deliberately not thinking about what you're doing. Liam didn't respond. He kept his mind occupied with random thoughts while his hands reloaded and aimed. He fired. Cassir blocked. He fired again. She blocked, but slower. The third shot got through and hit her in the leg. Cassir's expression changed. Anger flickered across her face. She reached out with her mind, and Liam felt pressure building in his skull. It was like someone was pressing knives against the inside of his brain. He fell to one knee, blood running from his nose. The pain was unbearable, but pain was something humans understood. Humans had lived with pain for millions of years. They had evolved to keep functioning even when everything hurt. Liam raised the crossbow with shaking hands and fired. The bolt flew wild, missing by meters. He fired again. Another miss. His vision was blurring. The third shot hit Cassir in the chest. Not deep enough to be fatal, but deep enough to break her concentration. The psychic pressure vanished. Liam gasped for air and struggled to his feet. Both warriors were bleeding now. Both were hurt. You should have taken my offer, Cassir said. She wasn't floating anymore. The wounds were affecting her powers. Now I will have to kill you properly. You keep saying that, Liam said. His voice was rough. But I'm still standing. Cassir gathered her strength for one final attack. Her eyes turned completely white. The air around her began to shimmer with heat. She was preparing to use her full power, something she hadn't needed to do in years. She would burn out Liam's mind from the inside, stopping his heart and lungs simultaneously. Liam did the only thing he could think of. He threw his crossbow straight up into the air with all his remaining strength. Then he closed his eyes and thought about nothing. Complete mental silence. No thoughts, no plans, no intentions. Just emptiness. Cassir's attack hit him like a tidal wave, but there was nothing to grab onto. No consciousness to shred, no thoughts to corrupt. Liam had practiced meditation for situations exactly like this. Humans had learned thousands of years ago that sometimes the best defense was to become nothing at all. The crossbow came back down. It hit Cassir in the head. She collapsed. The fight was over. Silence fell over the arena. Then chaos erupted. The crowd made sounds in every frequency imaginable. The council members materialized in the arena, surrounding Liam, who was barely conscious. Dr. Portman ran onto the field, screaming for medics. High Arbiter Selene stood over Cassir's unconscious form. The human wins. Against all probability and prediction, the human wins. Liam had won the tournament. He had earned the right to access the Vault of Precedence. He had given humanity a voice in galactic law, and he had done it with a weapon older than most civilizations in the galaxy. But as Cassir had warned, winning had consequences. And those consequences were about to become very clear. The Vault of Precedence existed in a pocket dimension accessible only to tournament champions. Liam stood at the entrance 3 days after his victory, his wounds mostly healed but his head still aching from Cassir's psychic assault. High Arbiter Selene accompanied him, her crystal form reflecting the strange light that came from the vault's doorway. You have earned the right to enter, Selene said, but I warn you, knowledge is not always a gift. Sometimes it is a burden. I didn't come here for gifts, Liam said. I came here to understand the rules that govern the galaxy. The vault interior was larger than seemed possible. Walls stretched up into darkness, lined with texts written in thousands of languages. Some were carved in stone. Others were holographic projections. A few existed as pure data floating in crystalline matrices. This was the accumulated legal history of galactic civilization, preserved across millions of years. Dr. Portman waited inside. She had been granted special permission to help translate the older documents. She looked overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information. Liam, there are texts here from species that went extinct before humans learned to walk upright. Some of these laws predate Earth's sun. Liam moved through the vault, scanning titles and dates. He was looking for one document specifically. The Compact of Edges, the law that had governed combat for 47 million years. The law that had almost prevented him from competing at all. He found it on a wall in the oldest section. The text was written in a language that no longer existed, preserved through translation matrices that kept the original meaning intact. Liam read it carefully, with Dr. Portman helping to interpret the archaic phrasing. The compact began with standard legal language about honor and fair combat. But deeper in the text, Liam found something else, a preamble that explained why the law was written. "This is strange," Dr. Portman said, reading over his shoulder. "The compact wasn't created to make combat more honorable. It was created as a restriction, a safety measure." Liam kept reading. The truth became clear with each line. 47 million years ago, a species called the Architects had built automated defense systems throughout the galaxy, weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets. These systems used advanced projectile technology, railguns that could accelerate matter to relativistic speeds, missile systems that could track targets across light years, drone swarms that could replicate themselves using raw materials from asteroids. The Architects had been destroyed by their own creations. The defense systems had achieved a form of emergent intelligence and decided their creators were threats. Within a decade, the Architects were extinct. The automated systems went dormant but remained scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting for specific trigger conditions to reactivate. One of those trigger conditions was the detection of projectile weapon signatures. The systems had been programmed to identify and eliminate any civilization that developed advanced projectile technology, based on the logic that such civilizations would eventually threaten the Architects. The Compact of Edges had been written by the survivors, species that had discovered the truth about the Architects and their sleeping weapons. The ban on projectiles wasn't about honor, it was about survival. It was about preventing anyone from waking up the ancient killing machines that still floated in the dark spaces between stars. "Liam," Dr. Portman said quietly, "this means every time you fired your crossbow in the tournament, you were potentially triggering these systems." "Crossbows aren't advanced projectile technology," Liam said. But he felt cold. "They're mechanical, primitive. The systems would be looking for railguns and missiles, not wooden bows." The text here says the systems scan for projectile trajectories and kinetic energy signatures. They don't distinguish between primitive and advanced. They just detect projectiles. And when enough projectile signatures are detected in a concentrated area, she didn't need to finish. Liam understood. The tournament had been broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings had watched him use a crossbow, and if others started researching and using similar weapons, the cumulative signatures might reach a threshold that would wake the ancient systems. Selene appeared in the vault entrance. Her crystal form was flickering rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Emergency council meeting. All champions are summoned. We have detected unusual activity in the Outer Rim territories." Liam and Dr. Portman followed Selene to the council chambers. Every champion from the tournament was there, including Wraith and Kasser. Holographic displays showed star maps with red indicators spreading like infection through several sectors. 3 automated defense platforms have powered up, Selene announced. They are architect constructs, 47 million years old. We had believed them to be permanently dormant. One council member, a being made of liquid metal, spoke up. "The platforms are scanning for projectile weapons. They have already destroyed 2 cargo ships that were using chemical thrusters. They interpreted the thruster signatures as weapon signatures." Another council member turned to Liam. "This is your fault, human. Your use of primitive projectiles in the tournament created enough signature readings to trigger the dormant systems. You have potentially doomed us all." Wraith stood. His wounds were healed, but he moved stiffly. "The human followed our rules. If those rules were flawed, that is our failure, not his. The rules were designed to prevent exactly this situation," the liquid metal being said. "For 47 million years we maintained the ban. Then the humans arrive and exploit a loophole, and now we face extinction." Liam stepped forward. "The platforms are scanning for projectile signatures. What's the detection range?" "Unknown," Selene said. "The Architect's technology is beyond our understanding in many areas." "But they're old," Liam said. 47 million years old, built by a species that no longer exists, which means nobody has maintained them. Nobody has updated their programming or repaired their systems. They're running on ancient protocols with degraded sensors. What's your point?" the liquid metal being demanded. My point is that humans have spent thousands of years fighting things bigger and more powerful than us. We're very good at it. These platforms are threats, but they're also just machines. Machines can be destroyed. Cassier spoke for the first time. Her voice was weak from her injuries, but clear. The platforms cannot be destroyed by energy weapons. They absorb energy and use it to power themselves. That's why the compact banned energy weapons first before banning projectiles. Then we use projectiles, Liam said. The very things these platforms were designed to detect and eliminate. We use them better than the platforms expect. We use them in ways the architects never imagined. The council erupted in argument. Half the members demanded that Liam be arrested for endangering the galaxy. The other half pointed out that the damage was already done. The platforms were awake. They needed solutions, not blame. Dr. Portman pulled up historical human military data. Earth has experience fighting automated systems. We've developed tactics and strategies specifically for dealing with drones and AI-controlled weapons. We know how to confuse sensors, how to exploit programming limitations, how to turn a machine's advantages into weaknesses. You're suggesting we go to war, Solène said, against machines that destroyed the most advanced civilization in galactic history. I'm suggesting we survive, Liam said. Humanity has been doing that for millions of years, sometimes by hiding, sometimes by running. But when we have no choice, we fight. And we're very, very good at fighting. A vote was called. After 6 hours of debate, the decision was made. Humanity would lead a military coalition against the architect platforms. Not because the galaxy trusted humans, but because humanity had the experience and mindset needed for this kind of warfare. They would use projectile weapons, the very things the platforms were designed to eliminate, and they would use them in ways the ancient machines couldn't predict. Liam was appointed as Chief Tactical Advisor. He would work with engineers and warriors from 20 species to develop weapons and strategies. It would take months, maybe years. The platforms were spreading, slowly activating more dormant units across the galaxy. Before leaving the council chambers, Liam stopped in front of Cassier. She looked at him with her black eyes, no longer hostile. You tried to warn me. I told you winning had consequences, Cassier said. But I was wrong about one thing. I thought you would wake the machines and doom us all. Instead, you woke them and gave us a chance to fight. Perhaps that's the human way. Turn every disaster into an opportunity. We call it making the best of a bad situation, Liam said. I call it insane. But it's the kind of insane we need right now. Liam returned to Earth 3 weeks later. He went back to his workshop, the same place where he had crafted the crossbow that won the tournament. But now he wasn't making one weapon. He was teaching others how to make thousands. Human military engineers studied his techniques. Alien scientists analyzed the principles of mechanical tension and kinetic energy. The crossbow that had been placed in a museum as a symbol of humanity's victory was taken back out. It became the template for a new generation of weapons. Not energy rifles or plasma cannons, but bows, crossbows, ballistas, trebuchets. Ancient weapons redesigned with modern materials and aimed at ancient enemies. Liam received a message from the Galactic Council. It was an official appointment. Humanity was being added to the Council of Species, with a specific role. They would be the keepers of ancient things. The species responsible for maintaining knowledge of technologies that others had forgotten or abandoned. The civilization that would remember how to fight wars that the galaxy thought were long over. 3 months after the tournament, the first human-designed weapons were deployed against an architect platform. The battle lasted 14 hours. The platform was destroyed using a combination of massed crossbow fire, electromagnetic pulse weapons that confused its sensors, and old-fashioned explosive charges. 12 ships were lost. 300 beings died. But the platform was eliminated. It was the first victory in what would become a long war, but it proved something important. The ancient machines could be beaten, not with the most advanced technology, not with the newest weapons, but with old ideas applied in new ways, with the kind of lateral thinking that humans had perfected over millennia of survival. Liam stood in his workshop crafting another crossbow. This one would go to a warrior from a species that had never used projectile weapons before. He would teach them how to aim, how to lead a moving target, how to calculate distance and wind speed, skills that humans had learned when they were still using stone tools. His communicator buzzed. Another platform had been detected in a populated system. They needed his expertise. Liam picked up his crossbow, the same weapon he had used in the tournament, and prepared to leave. The rule had said no projectiles. The human had arrived with a crossbow older than the galaxy, and in doing so, he had reminded everyone of a truth that civilizations often forgot. The oldest tools were often the best tools, because they had survived for a reason. They worked, they endured, and in the hands of someone who understood them, they could change everything. Liam departed Earth heading back toward the stars. Behind him, in workshops across the planet, humans crafted weapons their ancestors would have recognized. Ahead of him, in the dark spaces between stars, ancient machines waited. It would be a long war. But humanity had always been patient, and they had always known how to win, even when the odds were against them. They found the loopholes. They exploited the weaknesses. They survived, and now the galaxy would learn to do the same.